I still remember
Yeah.
my favorite memory of you
Here we
is
go.
you would always get so excited. Like you were also uncompromising. You were you, and we would play wrestling on the PlayStation,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you would go nuts. You
Hey,
you would go nuts, dude.
good, Eric. I've got. This is the perfect segue because I've been telling people, and my girlfriend that you haven't met yet, Chelsea. I've been telling her because sometimes we'll be singing out here on YouTube, like something's happening and we'll be singing, right? And my voice is terrible now, right? When I try and sing, I'm bad. But I tell her when I was younger, this is fine. Yes, I have proof. When I was younger, I could sing and I had a falsetto. And no one, she doesn't believe me. And some of my friends don't believe me when I say I used to be able to sing. And there
Yeah,
was this one time at youth camp, YFC in like 2008, 2007. The weekend, I was just going ham at that youth camp, laughing, screaming. We were trying to sing on top of that. And I lost my voice. Do you remember? I have
yes.
proof. I someone that can
So
agree.
yeah, like obviously your voice now has changed. You have your voice is deeper, but I
Yeah.
remember when your voice was up here,
Uh-huh.
and you would dance, you would just sing all the time.
Yes.
You were
And
just full of energy,
I have the
uncompromising. I love that.
I have the approval when I say that. I used to sing, but then I'm like, maybe God didn't want me to sing because I would have used it in a bad way, like but I have someone that can attest to it that I lost it that youth camp.
Yeah, and then well, your voice cracked, but it didn't crack till later. Like
Yeah.
it's like some people's voice crack like when they're 13, 12, but you're already like
Yeah.
how old are
15,
you? 15,
yeah,
16?
14,
Yeah, I remember
15.
that. It was already late. But yeah, anyway, I remember that. Yeah, I remember you used to be able to sing. But
Yeah.
I don't know
See,
if maybe you can still sing. I
no,
don't
I
know.
can't. I can't. That's the thing. But when people's voice crack, they somehow adjust and are able to bring that voice back, but on a deeper way. Mine's just bad. I can't sing anymore.
Well, you have to show
Go.
the world right now. Give me
Don't-
give me a
don't worry.
taste.
We'll do it
It's,
later. I'll get
yeah,
you
yeah,
on
do it later.
the bass and
Do
we'll
it
go.
later. I love that.
If you're new to this channel, welcome to another episode of Word from Home. On this show, we speak to athletes, artists, and creatives to share their personal success stories to inspire those out there, myself included, to pursue their passions and their purpose with whatever it takes. And for those unsure of what that is right now, hope this episode could spark that idea for you or that dream to just start or to just keep going. Today's special guest is someone that I've always looked up to with the way he can hold a room, how funny he is, how charismatic he is growing up through the church and through youth. He's a bassist playing on some of the biggest stages in the US with some of the world's major artists. He's the founder of Pitch Meeting, which is featured on Forbes, Billboard, and Bass Magazine. He's a dream chaser and maker. My kuya Eric Fortaleza, living in Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome.
I introductions are it's nice to talk to someone at least in a professional sense in this way that I've known for a long time because well, people that I meet here I've only known for about 2 years, really.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's nice to be like, wow, it's a nice reminder to be able to go like what I talked to you before was like, I wonder if I was consistent
Mm.
or did I know what I was talking about or did I mean what I say or am I still chasing the same thing? Because you forget that words have power and you're accountable for these words. And my point of that is even to the point where you're young, someone's looking up to you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't sometimes you don't realize it because
You
you're
don't
just
realize.
living.
Yeah,
You
you're
know.
just living.
So I wonder and I hope that those words that whatever words I don't even remember the stuff I've shared with you or the advice I've given you, but whatever words I've said back then, I hope whatever I'm doing now has affirmed those many different advice that I've given you. And maybe it hasn't. Maybe I've grown and changed. Who knows?
No, but the things that you used to tell me, I remember you would say things about like decisiveness, when it came with girls, like they need to be decisive, and just little things that, you know, at your age, when you're in your 20s already, that you were going to do this and that, you actually were able to, you actually went and did it. You know, some people will say things, but they don't actually put action towards it.
Yeah, like that's what I mean by words have power, I think.
Yeah.
That's when, I guess, when, you know, obviously when we first got to know each other, it was through youth and it was through the church. And many of the advice and the conversations that would always happen within there will always be about career, dating, and all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And I think I do remember that. I do remember that the stuff that I would talk about is decisiveness.
Mhm.
And by that, I hope what I meant is at least someone that knows exactly what they want. Even, and by that I also mean, even if they don't know, they're not messing around.
Yeah.
They're not saying that, they're not lying. Then one, they're not lying, and one, two, they're not covering up from their lack of knowledge.
Mhm.
Decisiveness doesn't mean always knowing what to do. Decisiveness is being honest with saying, man, I'm lost. Man, I am currently lost for words, or I don't know what to do right now. That's what I mean by decisiveness.
Yeah.
And I guess as a young kid, at least what we would talk about, let's see if we can connect what it was before and what it is now.
Yep.
At least back then, of trying to find someone that you want to date, or, you know, someone that you want in your life.
Yeah.
I think it gets muddy because the tangibility of what we're chasing sometimes is bigger than what we should be chasing. Sometimes we just want a partner. Sometimes I just want someone. I just want a relationship. I just want to be famous. I just want to have a career. I just want to make this. Whatever it is. And when we just chase we forget the why, you know?
Mhm.
And I guess that's why, at least I would say I was a leader to you back then.
Sure.
When I would give that advice, I think that's what I meant. Like, find someone decisive, because if you're, it's hard because you waste a lot of time. You could, and I'm sure, you know, our relationships, and I don't know what you've been through in your life, and there's many things that I've been through in my life. At least if we go in the route of relationships, you know, like, we have been hurt or wasted a lot of time, or at least we've seen other people in our lives that have wasted a lot of time with people that aren't decisive,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, for sure.
We've seen it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think from the time, you know, in my 20s, I've really learned that. I've seen a lot of people come and go. And I've also seen people that, like we were saying, aren't decisive or aren't sure of what it is, but they're not honest with themselves in regards to it. At least being honest with yourself and saying I'm lost, and then working on building something so that you can work on yourself, or, you know, find those things that make you happy. I think is most important.
Oh, dude, I definitely agree. It's that's I think decisiveness can sometimes feel like it's a trait that's hard to reach, and people think that they have to always know what they're doing.
Yeah.
All I mean by that is being honest of the situation that you're at. You know,
Yeah, being
like,
honest.
it's tiring. Dude. I mean, at least from what one of the many lessons I learned in my life, one of them would be, of course, it's easy to learn from your own lessons. Of course, it's easy to learn from your own experiences. But you know what's harder to do and requires more work is to learn from other people's mistakes.
For sure.
You know, it's hard because it feels like you want to be the one that goes through it. You have to be the one that goes through that situation. And I get it. But what's even harder is being able to empathize, or at least go in someone else's shoes and go, I wonder what I can learn from someone's mistakes or someone's direction.
Absolutely.
And I was surrounded by too many people that have had so many dreams, and then I saw nothing. I was like, I saw a lot of people that go, I want to start a food truck. I want to start a restaurant. I want to start this. I want to start a blah and this. And I would hear all these dreams, and but I don't see any action.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was just all dreams. And then
Yeah.
I was like, what do I want? Do I just, and I don't want to, you know, I'm not trying to badmouth anyone, but at least looking back to it now, all the people that I at least met along the way that have told me all their dreams and what they all wanted to do, they aren't doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand why. I'm not saying that if you didn't follow your dreams, you're a failure. I
No.
just understand how I hope I understand how life works.
Yeah.
But you know, I guess it's a bit more insight, and I use it as a tool and a weapon to be able to pursue whatever I wanted,
Of course.
learning from others
That have done the
as well.
same. That's what I feel like. That's what I'm doing currently at the moment. And every week that I'll be speaking to people that I look up to or inspire me, I feel like I'm just soaking all that energy. You know, I'm just surrounding myself with all of them, so that I can, you know, in my head, I shouldn't lack down. I should keep going. I want to do all the things that I want to do and not just talk about it. Yeah, but first and foremost, how have you been during this pandemic, post-pandemic in Nashville?
Well, I just to give a recap, I lived most of my entire life in Australia.
Yeah.
And I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, July 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no pandemic yet. And I
Yeah.
toured the world, did all that. And March 2020, we all got the phone call. I was actually in Amsterdam or Berlin.
Well,
We were playing some arena, and we were just partying there, and out of nowhere that weekend Trump was like, everyone go home. And we're like, okay. And then we're like, oh, we'll be back by May. May comes, May 2020 comes, nothing. We'll be back by July. July 20, nothing. And it rolls on a bit like that.
yeah.
But yeah, so I've been living in Nashville since then, and been trying to figure out all the different ways how to survive, how to keep pursuing what I love,
Yeah.
throughout whatever it is that comes my way.
Of course. And that would have been tough yeah, so Kuya lives in here in around, he used to live here in Blacktown, grow up here his whole life. But for
Western
him to
Sydney,
go
dude.
in Sydney, yeah, in Western Sydney, and for him to go out to Tennessee at the time of a pandemic, and if people don't know, creatives get hit hard, as in musical artists, people performing in the arts. Sorry, the people performing in the arts, they get hit hard when a pandemic and everything's locked down. So how was it for you during that time?
Well,
because that would have been months, right? That would have been months of no gigs, no. I don't know how it is.
Okay, well, so I could say I'm fortunate, and I could use all this stuff as a way that to say that I survived. But I also put myself in a position. So the greatest advice my sister, my sister has given me many different advice, but one of the best advice she's ever given me that helped me was have a rainy day fund. And I'm like, what's that mean? It's like, all it is about look at it as, so if you get fired at a job, let's say, if you get fired at a job that you I get a promotion, I got this got this great paycheck, fine. Then you buy a house, you buy a car, and then you start spending exactly what you have on this paycheck that you have. Yep. Now, what happens if you get let go of that job? The bills don't stop.
Mm-hmm.
Your mortgage doesn't stop. Your car repayments don't stop, and your groceries don't stop. That keeps going, or your rent, whatever it might be. So, a great advice of why having a rainy day fund of at least a quarter, or let's say 3 months of your income.
Yep.
Right? You set that aside. Give you different scenarios of what happens if you don't have something like this. So it's 3 months of your savings. And what it does is this. If you get fired from your job, the first thing that someone would do,
yep,
or if you lose a job, or you break a leg, or whatever, if you don't have insurance, or whatever it might be, or you lose an opportunity that you're doing, your bills don't stop. And one of the first things someone would do if they don't have a rainy day fund is panic.
Mm-hmm.
They're in a position where they're backed against a wall, and they would rush to make sure they find a job, or at least something that's going to cover whatever it is they lost.
Yeah.
And if they're in the position like that, if they're in a state of panic or not in a good position mentally, they will most likely make the wrong decision. The likelihood of making a wrong decision or not the best decision for whatever situation they're in is higher, right? But let's say you do have, you might go, oh, I'll sell this, I'll sell the TV, and I'll sell the car, and I'll whatever. I'll just take this job for now, and they might take a job that they don't like, and they'll hate themselves, or they'll be resentful at the job that they're at, or they're like, oh, I'm just here because I lost my other job. I'll find a better job one day.
Yeah. Yep.
But if you have a rainy day fund that at least lasts for 3 months, or that's your wages for 3 months, this is what happens when an emergency happens or you lose your job. You get fired on day one. Now you have 90 days to just be like, well, I can actually go on a holiday in the first 30 days.
Yeah.
My bills continue to get paid.
Yeah.
My mortgage gets paid. My car gets paid. Like anything whatever bills I have, they continue to get paid. I can actually go on a break. I can physically just breathe. Even if I wanted to go on a holiday for a month, I can do that. And even if I went on a holiday on a month, now I have 2 months to look for the right job or plan for the next step. So I have been fortunate enough to put myself in a position where I'm fine, like just at least financially.
Yeah.
Therefore, when the pandemic happened, I was like, whatever. I'm not panicking.
No panic at all.
But that requires a lot of foresight to be able to not plan for anything like that is foolish. To overplan and not take any risk is also dangerous.
Of course.
It needs to be a right balance. But what I'm saying is, whatever rainy day fund I had, it's allowed me to survive the entire way.
Yeah.
It's
I love that.
And it really has. And I forget to give that advice to people because, of course, whatever goals that I'm doing now and the stuff that I'm doing now, great. Yes, tennis, the US has opened up at least with gigs. But my point is that I do forget sometimes to give that advice.
Yeah.
That if you don't have something like that, you will panic.
Yeah.
You will panic and you will take a job that you may not like.
How long did it take until like a gig came about for you through the months from the time you left? What was it?
Well, the artist that I played for, Lindsay L,
Yeah.
had a few different virtual gigs and virtual sessions and live performances. I mean, online live performances. So those things sort of happened around that time, and maybe some private events here and there, but nothing major to the point where you're back. I think official touring would have started like when everything really opened up, would have been a year late. Hold on. Where are we now? 2021 now, right? So March 2020, I think it would have been March, a year later, March 2021 was when real gigs started returning.
Yeah. Wow.
So yes, it's still not complete because there's still a lot of different protocols. Some parts of the country aren't as completely open, but just to give it a year like that to have continued back, that's how long it took.
Yeah, that's crazy. It was a full year, and you were just talking about 3 months of rainy day fun, but you went the full year.
Yeah. You can make anything last, but I had my rainy day fund that lasted me a year.
A year. You made it happen.
So
that's another thing. You just made it happen regardless.
But I think that's an awareness that we all need to have, regardless of what career path you're taking. I think it's responsible to yourself, and if you have a family, if you have people you're taking care of.
That's true.
Because it allows you to make better decisions if you have a foundation that doesn't cripple you.
Yeah. For sure. I mentioned that you're from Blacktown, Western Sydney, but let's take it back to the start. Where were you born, and a little bit about your upbringing from your side?
So I was actually, I'm Filipino. My background is Filipino. I was born in the Philippines, in Manila. My parents moved when I was like 9, 10, around that age. That would have been like 1999, 2000. And we moved to Sydney, Australia. I don't remember much of my life when I was between 0 and 9 or 10, because all you really did at that age was just video games, toys. That's all you really thought about. You don't really aspire anything tangible. Or if you did, it was something that you learned from your parents. Like, doctor, I want to be a doctor. You know, I want to be an astronaut. That's something bullshit like that. But it, yeah, I learned. I found myself. You know, most people find themselves when they're teenagers, around the teen. You know, biologically, it also like a lot of stuff sets in. But most of my teenage life and adult life, I grew up, I spent and learned in Western Sydney, Australia, in Blacktown. And to the people that are not from Australia, and to anyone listening that's not from over there, that would be like it's not the ghetto. It's not the Bronx.
How Brooklyn used to be, kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe it would be like, okay, if LA is like Sydney, would be LA, right?
Yeah.
And then Western Sydney would be like
South Central,
straight out of Compton.
Yeah, South Central for sure.
Yeah, it would. That's what it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the area of where we're at. So a lot of immigrants, a lot of immigrant families, very multicultural, I feel, and I'm glad actually I grew up in a multicultural at least school town environment, because it really, well, firstly, I love food. So I felt like I got to try authentic Indian food,
everything,
authentic Malaysian food, authentic Thai food, authentic Nepalese food, Greek, Afghan, Iraq. You know what I mean? Like you get, and Turkish, whatever.
Yeah.
You had the opportunity to try authentic food, and food is biologically such a needed thing. But in terms of basing culture in that, you share your time. Breaking bread with people, I think, is some of the most I highly value, even to the point how I live here now. I make sure that at least once a week, at least with my band, we have a communal spirit of eating together.
Yeah,
it's because it's important.
For sure. It's a way of showing love. And I mentioned it before, and I just spoke to my Tita Lela and Tita Oma, who they're in their 70s now, that are Chilean, and I grew up with them. Andre, I grew up with, you might know Andre, he's around your age, Andre Fashini. I grew up around Chileans, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I have friends that are, Western Sydney, we have Samoan, Tongan friends, we have everything. We are the citizen of the world in this one melting pot. And I would not trade it for the world, because like you said, and for me as well, the main thing was food. Like I can go to someone's house and just have chivapis or something, or I can have you know what I mean?
Yeah, I love it. It's awesome. It's such a beautiful thing to be able to experience.
Yeah, and you don't get that culture shock when you go overseas and go to these countries. You've already kind of experienced it in a Australian way.
I also feel like it's a nice little reminder for you choose to see it that way, because obviously we have people that grow up in the same culture, the same environment, but then choose to still be resentful, choose to still have no gratitude, choose to blame the world around them instead of looking from within. So it's still a choice, regardless of it being accessible. But I think having it easily accessible has been the most beautiful thing that I will never take for granted, because Nashville compared to Sydney in terms of food, at least, like there's good food here, of course, but compared to a real multicultural city, it's not the same.
It's not.
No, I miss authentic food.
Yeah, and that Nashville's in the south, right?
We're right in the middle.
I was gonna ask how'd you were mentioning in your teenage years, that was kind of where you were finding yourself in a way, not finding yourself, but more the things that you may want to aspire to be or do. And I know you went to Mitchell High School, right?
Yes, Mitchell High School, in Blacktown.
Yeah. And so how did your actual musical career or bass career start?
So how it started, and at least why I'm here, and why, because we can that's a long story, but if I can make it concise a
Yeah.
bit. um so joined the band back in high school. Like a few of my Filipino friends, I was in a Filipino group: Kevin Sanchez, Tunlin Nong,
I remember all the boys.
Quim Ibanez,
Yep.
and I think that was
The boys.
think
I remember the boys.
yeah, I think that was the band. We were in a band called Mystery Box when I was 16. But I kept going. I really fell in love with the bass, and at least with music.
Yeah.
But I kept pursuing it, be it pursuing it after college and pursuing it to study for uni and college,
Yeah.
etc. But why I ended up here, or why I feel there's always this calling to move to the States,
Yeah.
is because at least the music that I loved, and the music that was, that I'm sending in my ears, even if I'm listening to modern music, I have this love for history of why things are the way they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, going back, why did I love John Mayer? Well, because I went back. Oh man, because you listened to Eric Clapton and Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then these guys. Who did they listen to? Oh, BB King, Albert King, Freddie King. Who did they listen to? Oh, they were listening to like big jazz bands from like the 1940s. Who did they listen to? Oh, they were listening to classical music, etc., etc., etc. As no matter how much I keep going back, the music that always rippled within me would come from Atlanta,
Yeah.
would come from Detroit and Motown.
Yeah.
The country music being Nashville, the pop scene in LA, the jazz scene in New York, the blues scene in Chicago, the jam band scene and jazz scene in New Orleans, the list goes on. The Americana scene in Tulsa, Oklahoma. My point is, the music that I enjoyed was here. All the best were brought up here.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always a calling for me to be like, I need to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the eventual goal. And also at the same time, even approaching it, because that's a spiritual approach and that's beautiful, but approaching it has to be the right combination of two things. To completely follow spiritually, I'm not saying it's foolish, but is limiting. But to completely follow numerically doesn't have much life within it. Mm-hmm. So in terms of, sure, I'm following it spiritually in terms of what I want to do, but it's also, I'm looking at it as business wise. Let's just say, if whatever you do, if you want to start a business, you get 1% of the market. Let's just say you get 1% of the market, right? Like whatever you're selling, be it a phone, be it music, be it food, whatever. You get 1% of the market. There's 21 million people in Australia.
Yeah.
We get 1% of the market.
Mm-hmm.
201,000 people. That's a chunky amount of people.
Yeah.
But 1% of the US market, 1% of 300 million people.
Yeah.
That's 3 million people.
Yeah.
Like it's incomparable.
For sure.
It's like you can let's even look at NBA compared to NBL. What's our Australian one?
NBL.
Yeah, whatever. Like the reason why LeBron would get, what's his deal? What's his uni deal?
He's currently 40 plus million a year.
That's five. That would be nearly the price of half of the NBL teams.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
My point is, it's not that, but I'm not dissing Australia because they're bad at sport. Because if you think about it, Australia, in terms of medal tally in the Olympics, we're up there,
good.
man.
We're quite good if you're going by,
but in terms of numbers of how to make it into a business, of course, the top best player in NBL is not going to get paid the same as LeBron because there's not enough people watching.
100%.
Because my point is, it's also a calling for me to like, well, business wise, it's a good approach.
Yeah.
It's a good approach to be able to move and pursue a career of trying to get even 1% of 300 million people. But the thing that really woke me up in 2015, one of my buddies who's still one of my heroes, became a buddy. His name is Sean Hurley. He's a bass player. He's played for the last like 4 John Mayer albums.
Yep.
Something like that. And he's the John Mayer's bass player.
Okay.
And I was just hanging out with him in his studio in LA. This is 2015. And I didn't even live. I was just going back and forth, Sydney, LA, and just visiting the States. And he said this. He was like, dude, you're a great guy. You're a great musician. And I can recommend you to gigs right now.
Yep.
But this is a proximity game. You're not here.
Yeah.
I can recommend you right now to some people that would love your playing or that would love what you do.
Yeah.
But you're not here. So that woke me up. So that ensured that I worked on every year. I would go back. Every year I would go back to the States, being like, building networks, connections, etc. So by the time I did move here, I wasn't just like nobody.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it also started from that's a smart. I said this in another interview with Dunlop, which is a company, another brand, guitar accessory brand.
Yep.
Because why I did that is the approach should be, we have this approach of hustle strong, work hard all the time, and that's beautiful. And I'm all for hard work always. I am never going to say no to hard work, but there's a difference between hard work and smart work. You don't just work hard; you got to work smart.
Yeah,
you can work hundreds and hundreds of hours on a ladder and climbing a ladder of a place you don't even want to climb.
Yeah. I think that's another thing that's a thing that I got from you as well. I remember that's just like snap something. I remember you telling me those exact words. Do you want to be?
I think, yeah, it's like, would you rather? I would rather climb. I think what I shared with you when I was like maybe 20.
Yeah.
I would rather climb a ladder that I would want.
Yeah.
Than a ladder that I don't. Than a ladder that I don't want to.
Yeah, I think no, it was more like I remember you telling me I'd rather climb a ladder from the bottom that I really want to be climbing to the top for, instead of starting from the middle of that ladder, of a ladder that I do not want to be a part of.
Yeah. Well, the way I look at it now, because the ladder analogy does work, but then I look at it like a garden. I look at it like a little garden that you have fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
It's like you can work hard and at ensuring that you're taking care of this garden, but if it doesn't reap the right fruit, it's pointless. I rather take care of one little pot plant that will generate the fruit that I want. So work smart. Sure. There's all like, that's even why the pandemic has not fazed me.
Yeah.
Because like, well, man, like, yeah, I can work hard, and I could have, all these people working hard for years. The moment the pandemic happened, oh no. And I go, well, if you work smart, you'd be like, great, next.
I think of that as well. A lot of people were forced to have to pivot during that pandemic. People are going to have to work in a different way than they were used to. But it makes a lot of sense to work smarter, not harder. And I've been learning a lot about that and people have been telling me about the different things that we should be doing. And I myself, instead of me thinking I'm just gonna work this 9 to 5, I'm looking of ways to increase, not just in wealth wise, but increase the things that I want to be doing. For sure, the things that I actually want to be doing, not things that I am stuck on in a way.
Or even socially expected to.
Yeah. Or like I'm sure that that's exactly right. Socially expected to, because our parents, I don't know about your parents' situation but in a way our parents, but it's different because they sacrificed a lot to come out here, and then
immigrant
they
parents,
had to get a job.
That's what Jem is talking about.
Immigrant parents. So they sacrificed a lot to come out here, and then whichever job that they get into, they can't think to do the things that you're doing right now, or like be able to pivot because they have so many things that they have to think of?
So I told my dad, I had a recent conversation with my dad about this,
Mm-hmm.
because my dad may not be, no one's perfect, and my dad has every flaw like a human being, but I've learned many things from him. And one of the things that I learned from him, that he was an Olympian, he was a boxer, he represented his country on the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And all I knew, he inspired me to make sure that whatever I pursued was Olympic level. Because what's the point?
The top.
Why have do something?
Yeah.
There's no point. But I think I shared with this to him recently that, of course, I could have been the engineer and the doctor and all this stuff and make a lot of money, because they gave up their life in the Philippines and gave up everything. Because I had 29 years, I let that all go and I moved here. Now imagining my parents at like mid 40s, everything they built, they gave up everything in the Philippines.
Yep.
And moved their entire life in Sydney just for their children.
Yep.
Because they were already too late. It's not like they had, they could study again, etc. They were already like, this was for my children. But then obviously you can compare and do all of this stuff, and the generic Asian family build up would be like, Doc, you'll be doctor, you'll be a
nurse,
you'll be a nurse or whatever. But I told my dad, I go, Dad, whatever it is that you instilled in me, whatever it is that you taught me, yes, sure, my cousin who has a condo and ride and has a Mercedes Benz might technically
you see it.
There might be this perception that they are
more successful. Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, but whatever you instilled in me made me be able to face any fear and tackle it and be like, I want to chase my dreams. You allowed me to travel the world and live my dream.
Live your life that you want to.
Right? And that's no compromise.
And Koya, for me, I believe that that's the most successful thing in the world, that you are chasing and pursuing the things that you love and you're happy with what you're doing. Because you could have all these things out here. I'm sure your cousin might be happy to have the Mercedes and the condo and all that. But then in the back of his head, there's like a little hobby or a little thing that he loved to do back in the day, and he's not doing that no more. I don't know your cousin.
So, yeah. So I remember even realizing this when I was younger, that I was like, so a lot of people live their entire lives. So by the time they can retire, they can finally do what they love.
Right.
I'm like, no, I don't care if I'm not set when I'm 65, but at least from 20 to whatever age that I retire. Like, the thing is, I will never retire if you're doing what you love.
For sure.
I agree with you. I'm doing what I love now. I get to chase everything, whatever it is that I want to do, and without compromise. And I'm loving it. And I'm not even saying that, like, some people are very good at this. And I notice this too. They sometimes lie to themselves. I'm like, yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm doing this. I'm doing what I love. And I'm like, and I'm trying to be very genuine how I answer that question. I get to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
However I want, whenever I want.
Right.
I have no boss.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no one gets to tell me what to do. Mm-hmm. And I get to choose if I want to play on an arena or if I don't want to.
Yeah.
I get to be my own boss. And I think that also came with this, though. Now, we can talk about the idea of course, we can compare and be like, well, the person chasing that has the Mercedes and has the condo, that's not real success, because real success is doing what you love. But grass is greener in every single side. Because I want to give you an insight, at least, that even people that are rock stars and touring the world, some people hate what they're doing.
Okay.
It's not even about what the thing is.
When you say that they hate what they're doing, they just don't like being a drummer, or what do you
Sorry,
mean?
well, they're not the pursuit and the mindset and attitude isn't gratitude. It's well, it's a job.
Okay.
Anyone can do anything. Doesn't matter if it looks like an office. Doesn't matter if it looks like a stadium. Doesn't matter if it looks like I don't know, a restaurant or a YouTube video or whatever it might be. Like, it doesn't matter. You can turn that into a job, and you can turn that to something that just like, well, this is a job.
It's a job. Yeah.
In whatever, anyone in any level. And I want to give insight to that to people that think that people that are touring the world and on our tour buses and our rock stars are like, that's it, that's the dream, because blah 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 blah. And I'm like, man, I know stories of some people that they just show up to the tour bus and then they're like, okay, head down, and then they play the gig and they don't even really love the people who they play with, because it's a job.
It's a job. That's another example is just like NBA players that rock up. Everyone, we dream to be in the NBA, like people that play basketball. Oh, that's the highest of highs. Some people there have no passion for the game. They're just there because of their talent. So I'm guessing that's what you're saying with some of these musicians.
It's the same.
It's a job. They love the lifestyle it gives them, the money it brings, but they don't love. They don't want to win a championship. They don't want to be like, on the Olympic level that you're saying.
Yeah, I don't need a championship if I have a $3 million deal. Even NFL players, like, oh, I just got a $30 million deal. I don't need a championship. I'm getting paid $30 million.
I'm a big guy,
So that's what I mean. Like, we sometimes tend to think that, yes, Mike, who knows? So I can't speak for my cousin. I'm only speaking for my father's point of view.
Yeah, but they most think like that.
But my cousin, maybe, I don't know. My cousin who has this life might be so fulfilled and be like, man, I love this. I am so grateful for life. And for everything. It might be that. And that's really it. That's what everyone's trying to chase, or should be chasing anyway. It doesn't matter what it looks like. Because to give advice, at least to give a little scenario of what I dealt with, I moved to Nashville, Tennessee, July 2019, and I toured the world between July, and I was touring the world until the end of, I was just touring the world with the artists I was playing with. And then come December, it was like, well, it's holiday time. And I get a phone call from my buddies who were from Australia, but they live in Nashville. And then they were like, hey, dude, are you going home for Christmas? And I was like, not really planning on it. I just moved here. And he's like, well, we got asked to open up for Keith Urban to play the Sydney Coliseum. To open up for Keith Urban to play the Sydney Coliseum for 2 nights. If you're free, if you're coming home, would you like to play with us? And I'm like, sure, I'll come home. I gave it a reason to come home in December. So, and I think this is this thing relates. So the conversation could go something like this. When I went home after 6 months, after social media posting all those, oh, he's played in arenas, he's on the tour bus, he's touring the world, he's made it. I was playing in front of 17,000 people in Mercedes-Benz Arena. And I'm playing and I'm looking around and I'm like, wow, that's it. I've made it. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, letting it sink in. But a few things fought within me. Like, well, that's it? You reach your dream? Is that it? When I went home, talking to friends and friends and family, and they pretty much, people would go, dude, like, did you achieve your, that's it, you lived the life, you're achieving it, like, oh man, it's so awesome, like, because this is what everyone's chasing. It's like, are you happy now? Well, and truth be told, the answer was, I have no preference. The things that I realized, though, around this time, as I'm facing the heights of wherever I was, I hit a form of nihilism. and which pretty much meant that I was like, man, there's happiness wasn't the goal.
Mhm.
And what I started realizing when I said I have no preference was the way I pursued life, regardless if I was playing at a wedding, if I was playing at a bar in Sydney, if I was playing at my backyard if I
Yep.
used to do carols,
Yep.
if I was playing at the Filipino fiesta one weekend.
For exposure.
Of course. Be it if I'm playing in front of 17,000 people in this arena in Berlin, Germany.
Mhm.
It hit me where I was like, oh, I was ready. I've done what I love the entire time.
Mhm.
I don't need this. I don't need 17,000 people.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm not grateful for it, but it was just a slow realization of to be able to pursue the highest thing, at least in my head, to be able to pursue or at least accept the highest goal or form of happiness requires to be able to understand the very complete opposite of suffering. And by that I mean, the higher you go, you understand how high you could fall.
Okay.
If you're only chasing happiness, that's foolish.
Mm-hmm.
But if you pursue to be you authentically, regardless of where you are, that's the goal in life.
I understand that, because I think I was talking to, well, it's crazy to me when someone that we were saying people perceive is at the highest of highs. Ray Sefo, former world K1 kickboxing champion, was saying the same thing, that some of the greatest moments of his life was the being present in the moment of the process or his journey.
Yeah.
And that was the dream for him. And Kobe says it too.
Yeah.
It's crazy that while you're saying this, I was hearing all these people that I've listened to in interviews or I've talked to, they say the exact same thing, that the dream is actually the journey. And
yes,
it's crazy. When you said that, I was just like, Kobe said that. He goes, the goal is not to be NBA champion. The goal is actually everything that you've done through the journey to reach that. And that's the real dream.
Every single moment.
Every moment.
Single, it's the gratitude and living in the moment.
Wow.
Is what I realized at that moment, playing in front of 17,000 people.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh, there's no difference.
Yeah. I've been that guy.
Yeah, I'm the same. It's not like I made it now and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I felt untethered. And what I'm saying is life isn't just only enjoying the highs, but understanding that the lows are equally important. Yeah. So
to appreciate that.
Yeah. That's the only way to be able to appreciate the high.
Yeah. The hard times.
you can't get to a peak if you don't understand how low it is that you can go.
Yeah.
If you don't, but here's even a challenge for some people, that the only reason that I am able to pursue these heights, and the only reason I am able to pursue the highest that I can, is because I don't need it. Because I don't need to. That's the only reason. Like the only reason why I feel like I'm achieving more and more and more and more, it's because I don't need it to represent who I am, and I don't need it to be happy.
Yeah.
Some people chase and chase and chase and work hard and do all this stuff, and then they still decide to kill themselves eventually. But not suicidal in that sense, though it may happen. But I'm even talking about killing themselves, be it their diet, be it how they treat themselves, be it their mental state, how they treat the people around them. You know, it's toxic in some shape or form. But my point is, when shit happens, it's like, man, that's part of it. Like, I always told myself, you know, like I was never anti-tattoo. I never got one, but I always told myself, if I did get a tattoo, it had to be something that I completely believe in, or something that I really, 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 truly believe in.
Yep. Until
those moments when I started realizing that, and recently I got this, I only got like, it's like, it means it's like the white is only as white as the black is only as black. If white is good, if that's how you want to see it, if white is your dreams and your career and your aspirations of beauty and success, the larger that gets, the more you get, the more your dreams get achieved, and the higher the position you are in your career. You know what also equals? The chaos. It's always equal every single time. It's never going to overpower one side or not. You know, it's always going to be equal to its moment. And life isn't the white, and life isn't even the black. Life is the line in between, being able to understand and see that, hey, did I enjoy every single moment, or did I appreciate every single moment? Because if you don't, then you're just going to be like, oh, because who cares what has happened when you're 75 or 80 or 90 in your deathbed? If you didn't enjoy every single moment, all the crap that you have, the career, the NBA rings, the championships, the arenas, the Grammys, the whatever it might be, it's gone. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I think that it's a hard concept to understand, though, to completely untether yourself and let go of even worldly desires, of worldly aspirations. Because the only reason the best are up there. I'm talking about the best. I'm talking about the ones that love the art completely and wholeheartedly and will change the world. Those are the ones that don't need it. You know, I feel for the people that go, well, the pandemic is a great example of like, I need to be working, or I'm no one. But I wanted to remind people that, like, man, the pandemic was so good at reminding people that you can lose stuff that you don't even like.
Makes,
you know,
100%.
The world can take away everything from you, even stuff that you didn't even want to do.
Yeah.
It's like, might as well do what you love.
100%. And I've spoken about that on here, how this podcast started and how I've had time to think and create something like this during that pandemic. But that's for sure. I want to ask, I know that you have a person, one of the boys at the back there, in your studio room, right?
Sure.
And well, what have you guys got going on today? Because are you guys recording, or
well, as
you're just hanging out?
The beauty of being your own boss allows you to just do whatever you want. And right now, after this, we're thinking of watching the Dave Chappelle.
Oh yeah, I watch it. It's so good.
I haven't seen it yet.
You're gonna love it. Right? Knowing you're gonna love it. You're in every way.
This is Joel Guptill. He's a singer songwriter from Nova Scotia, Canada, and he moved here to the US a while ago. And I met him through.
Good on you, mate.
I met him through an event that I started during the pandemic called the Pitch Meeting. And
yeah, so I was going to get into that, and I want you to. So I know you've created something called the Pitch Meeting. So are you able to explain how this all came about?
So the idea happened when mid-pandemic, August 2020. Obviously, the gigs haven't returned. And long story short, I had this idea of just like, hey, we're in Nashville, Tennessee. There should be an open mic night. And if we imagine ourselves what an open mic night looks like, it's pretty much someone just signing up on a list and then playing a song.
Yeah.
But I want it to be original music, like songs people wrote, not like oh, I'm gonna
Covers
sing
like in the Philippines.
covers. Yeah. I want someone they
Banda
wrote the song.
banda.
Yeah. I wanted them to perform, like, rather than them just performing their song and that's it. I wanted them to have a backup with a full band backing them up on the spot. It's like we have a house band. I'm in the house band. And during the pandemic, I was just like, hey, there's a band here. If you want to use the band, sure. It's pretty much just an idea that I started that generated. It was a communal idea that I wanted to just bring people together with music, be it regarding, but focusing on original music, but also having this opportunity to give artists, musicians, because that just sign up an opportunity to play with a professional band.
You give them a platform.
Yeah, pretty much give them a voice of like, hey, here's a place. Because like I said, I'm playing in front of 17,000 people and I'm like, this is awesome. And I love this. And I'm playing for my artist and I'm letting her rip a guitar solo. And I'm just like doing all this stuff. I'm having fun. But I was like, you know what will mean more? If I set a path for others to be able to do the same.
Every time you talk, it's crazy because it just springs up everything. Like everything you say, there's value to it, and it just makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. As in, when you said, what is it that's going to make me feel even more whole? Before I forget the thought in my head of what you just said, is Kobe was once asked. Kobe Bryant was once asked, what is your definition of greatness? And he could have said the 5 championships, MVP, scoring 81, all his accolades. But what he said was, I think that my definition of greatness is how do I inspire a person to inspire another person, to inspire another person to create something that's truly timeless.
Yeah.
And you saying what you're saying now is everything that is.
Well, it's so unifying, isn't it? It's like that those traits are so universal for the people. So one of the best affirmations I got was from this guy named Michael Holland. He's a retired inventor and very well off, but retired. Just to give you, many people may not know him. Kobe is obviously everyone knows, but this guy is the guy that he has patents everywhere. It's like over 90 patents. But without him, the coax cable that plugs into every television that plugs into the antenna, so that coax cable is what makes sure that your TV has
signal.
Yeah, he's the one that designed that. So without him, but it's every single television in the world. It's not just every television in the world would have this thing. And he said this to me. He's like, man, what I noticed about you is you help build up others. Of my 35 years of being a CEO and leading and running a very well-off company, wasn't the money, wasn't even the success. It was 35 years of showing others that they could be better. Showing others that they could be better, or they could be more than what they even dreamt of or dreamed of. It's a constant affirmation, as you even talk about your heroes, talking about the same thing. And it's an affirmation because, well, it's not like I read it in a book and I'm like, how to be successful, thing like this. It's sometimes a natural desire that you have to allow. Because you can't fake wanting the best for others. But I tell a lot of people, I'm the most selfish person I know. And like that sort of sometimes doesn't make sense to some people. It's like, oh, but you're giving opportunities for everyone, blah, 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 blah. And I go, I know, but the only reason why I can give so much is I ensure that I take care of myself first.
Yeah.
Like if you give when you have nothing to give, you're giving nothing. You're only giving because of pride. Sometimes it's okay to say no when you can't.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's okay to go, I can't give right now because I need to take care of myself.
For sure.
But by when I say I'm selfish, is I mean that I make sure that I'm good. I make sure that I don't have to worry about anything. I make sure that I don't have to, because whatever it is that I'm pursuing, I pursue it wholeheartedly with no compromise. And like Kobe would not have inspired others if he wasn't working on being the best himself.
Oh my gosh, you are.
You know?
Yeah.
Like I can't inspire others if I'm not taking care of me.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we have this, even the Christian mindset of giving is sometimes like give till it hurts. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Like, yeah. And yes. Okay. We can get religious here, but even using Jesus,
okay.
Right? Like give till like you die from it. Well, God had everything already. It's not like Jesus is God, right? So it's not like he even died and he gave everything he got. It's like God had already everything, and he's like, I want to give more. And if we really mean what we say, that like God decided to go down and it was him, it's not two separate entities. It's not like there's Jesus and then there's God. That's one.
Yeah.
My point is the only reason why, if we go religious with it, is God could give everything is because he had everything. But if you have nothing, that's not giving. That really isn't.
Yeah.
You know, like you make sure that you are good before you give to others, because it's not only healthy for you, and it's not just only noble, it's also smart. It's not just working hard, it's working smart. If you want to give, don't just give hard, give smart.
Yeah.
And even like don't just like, all right, give as much fish as you can to everybody. Really? That's the answer? What about teach a man to fish?
For sure.
You know, that's in that same, it's the same concept.
Because I know people that, you know, you would know as well, our family or so. Some will give so much to the Philippines, to family in the Philippines, and give. And those people are there waiting, and they put it up on their Facebook. Thank you, Tita, or thank you, Kuya, thank you, Ate, whatever. It's because they are expecting something or money from us.
Yeah.
But what that does is allow them to not strive for anything that they want to do. So it's the same kind of concept. So I get you with that.
Yeah, like I've had like that many conversations with my family too, that it's like, why are you giving when you don't have anything to give?
Yeah.
Like, no, but they're poorer than us. They're more, and I get that and I understand that. But imagine putting yourself in a position where you are so well off that when you give, it doesn't hurt you.
Yeah.
You know, you can give so much more.
Or hurt them.
And it's more effective. Yeah, it's actually more effective. Yeah. And it actually promotes growth, or at least it promotes direction somewhere else.
No,
you know,
I get you.
I think that's the same concept of at least why I want to be able to give in what way or form. And the only way I can give, and I tell this to people, is you have to be selfish. I know it sounds sort of, you know, like what, why, like selfish giving, but that's what I mean. It means that you give with potency rather than just like till it's your last breath and you run out.
No, I get you. So, and that's what you're doing now with pitch meeting.
That's pretty much what it is, man.
Yeah.
Like that's a summary of it. To like, if people want to find out more about it, obviously you can check it out on Instagram and all of that stuff. But
just Google it and it'll come up on Billboard. It's crazy. You've been interviewed by Billboard.
But that's the point of it, man. Like it was a I can talk about the logistics of all of it and what it all does, but I mean, at least the spirit of it is, I think, the most important.
For sure.
And if for whoever's interested in seeing what it is, fine, we can dig deep into that and you can check it out. But I think the spirit of it really is that it's more in the sense of like, well, I've achieved it. I've done it. Like I've done the arenas, and like, what's next? More arenas? Really? Is that like?
What's
It's not like
next?
there's gonna. It's not like there's gonna be an arena in the moon, and that's the next goal.
Yeah.
It's like, my point is, what? How can we create a path for others? And but at least setting a path. But here's the catch: it's setting a path for others to be able to do the same, but with the motto of no compromise. It's yeah, it can look like music, and music is the vessel, but the thing inside is no compromise. It's more of the spirit of what I'm trying to do and how I'm living and what I'm trying to chase, and that's all it is.
Yeah. It's crazy because I had a whole set of questions, right,
Go ahead.
to ask you.
Yeah.
But you're when you're talking, you're basically answering everything that I wanted to ask you.
For the people listening at home, I hacked into Jem's computer and I saw all of it, and I'm just like, I'll tackle all of this now.
Next. But you know, it's crazy that you're just going through every single thing that I wanted to know that's going on over there about you, but you've already answered them. But you know, looking back now, what's some of the best highlights and things you've learned along the way? And has there been a point where, even during the pandemic, where you thought, nah, I can't do this anymore and just want to go back, knowing from what you've already said that
highlights? A highlight would be, like, of course, like I've appreciated everything along the way, but a highlight would be this. Whoever the person is that I give an opportunity to, whoever it might be, but it's when I get the message in the side, and it's not even a post. It's not a post. It's just a DM.
Yeah.
Because the only audience is myself.
Yeah.
It's not for the world to see. It's not trying to like flex or show the stuff. But an artist that just went to me because of the COVID. Like, I haven't played music in over a year. And being able to play at the pitch meeting saved my life. After the performance, I sat down in my car and I just cried. And I'm like, dude, like, thanks for trusting us with your music. And I think I use that as the highlight, is because every single person that I've met, I just try to be honest with myself. And when I meant that, it's like, man, that goes for you too. Whatever I shared with you all that long ago, it's about ensuring that, was I pursuing truth? Did I mean what I say? Was I decisive with the words that I was picking? And I can't just give you advice, because advice is nothing without me actually showing that I meant what I say. You know? So it's all these people around that's why I keep going, because I'm like, man, I owe it to myself, and I owe it to every single person that's ever asked me for advice.
Yeah.
You know, that's a highlight. The highlight would be being able to share that life with people, be it some random guy I've never met that was very grateful, be it you just was like, man, I remember the advice you ever gave me, be it someone who doesn't ever need to tell me anything. But you know, life is messy and it can be dark and grim sometimes, but I just want people to see that the gratitude is what's going to make sure that whatever you're pursuing is worth it every day. Now, that's a highlight, because I get affirmations from all these people all the time that pursuing whatever it is that they want to share and whatever they want to pursue. And they say, man, you're living the dream. And I'm like, well, I have no preference, is my answer. When people like scratch, like, what does that mean? But I love that we got to talk about it a bit in depth.
Yeah.
Of what I mean by that.
Absolutely.
But do I have any regrets? or like, did I want to give up at one point? Well, I'll say this: to be able to pursue the highest thing that I want, I would have been able to tackle and understand the weight of not wanting to do it. They're equally as powerful forces, always titans battling constantly. They need to, because like it's the reason why I'm up here is because I have the same exact acceptance of okay. Just to summarize it a bit, a lot of people go, man, what's the worst thing that could happen? And sometimes people don't realize how heavy that question is. They're like, man, you should do this because what's the worst thing that could happen? Or like, man, don't say that because what's the worst thing that could happen? It's nice and beautiful, and it makes sense because it's a sort of like a little push and affirmation for someone to pursue something. But the highest in this yin and yang isn't arenas. The highest is living. And what's the lowest? Killing yourself. That's the darkest thing anyone can ever tackle. If you face that in your life, if you sort of face that head on and clash with the purpose of living, man, that's the worst thing that could happen. The worst thing that could happen is you killing everyone around you and killing yourself. That's the worst thing that could happen. You don't realize the power that you have in the other side. Meaning the power that you have to take away life. Man, that you have power to create the complete opposite of suffering. That's what I mean when I sort of want people to realize the weight of their power.
Yeah.
It's like the power isn't just like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Well, I lose my job and then I go move back home. No, what's worse than that? Well, I become homeless. No, what's worse than that? It can get worse. Humans have historically have done the most horrible things in the world.
Yeah.
But that same human instinct, power, skill, whatever it might be, has the same power to plan on going to Mars.
To do the greatest things. Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
To achieve the greatest in the world. It's the best. I think that's to ask, like, have I ever wanted to give up? Or those kinds of questions. Man, I battle every time of the beauty and suffering of the world. You have to completely untether yourself and know that what you're pursuing is true.
Yeah. I love that. I feel like I'm getting lost in all your words and I'm just here just listening to everything. And then I look up and I got a few more questions, and I know we've been here for a while now, and you probably got some things to do on your Sunday night out there, and I still got to go back to work. I have I have a few last questions
Sure.
before we wrap it up. First of all, who are some of your biggest inspirations?
Well, obviously my parents. The lesson I already showed you with my dad was whatever I pursue, it has to be Olympic level. And what I learned from my mom was do it with humility. Whatever it might be.
Yeah.
My parents will always be, big influencers. Musically, of course, I can name them all off the bat, but a great author named Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you've ever read his book.
I've heard of his work. Yes.
12 Rules for Life. If you ever want to have a read of that, that inspired me a lot. But
12 Rules of Life.
Yeah. I mean, we can edify and idolize many people, but because those people still existed. Every single person in the world has still existed, but it always comes back to how you've been brought up, especially parents.
100%. Makes a lot of sense.
Like Kobe existed, and your parents not being good parents, you would have just used that and be like, be resentful with your life.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, for sure. Last question that I really want to ask you is, you've kind of gone through parts of it already, but I want to know, what do you think stops people from pursuing and chasing the passions and making it the reality?
Fear. Every time. That's the only one.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing. Like, but if you really step back, eventually the people up there, they step back and those fears don't exist. You're only ever chasing, there's only ever two things that's happening in any constants. It's either you're chasing love or you're running away from fear. That's all it is. That's the only two things that's ever happening ever in life.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can either just chase what you love or run away because you fear it. Fear is the only thing that's ever stopping anyone from doing anything. Oh, I don't want to pursue like a food truck because that's not going to be good, because I'm scared of, well, I'm not going to be able to make money. I'm not going to be able to take care of my family. I'm not going to be able to blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, this pandemic happened and you just lost that safe job, didn't you?
Yeah.
So what's the point of fearing anything? It's like fear will always be the driving force of why someone doesn't do exactly what they want to do. Yeah. It's fear. It's the only thing, until they realize that the opposite of fear isn't bravery. The opposite of fear is love. Pursue what you love.
Mm.
And if love means, and I'm not even saying give up every responsibility. Like, if you want to be the best father in the world, pursue that. If you want to be the best packing plant guy, pursue that. But be the best because you love it. Be the best because you love yourself.
Yeah.
You know, fear is the only thing that we always compromise with. We say like, oh, I don't want to move countries because it's scary. And I don't want to move countries because, let's even not go a bit too out, but let's go, I don't want to do this because my job here is secure. I have a good pay rate. They pay me dental, whatever. It's like, when you say all this stuff, it's just like, so what?
Exactly.
It's like, so fear will always be a great influencer and the decider of your life until you finally let go and start realizing, oh, you have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
You know,
I have something to add in regards to fear. I feel like when it comes to fear, people like Mike Tyson have said that fear, he was very fearful every time he was about to step in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
But he used that fear to negate and to knock out his opponents because he didn't want to be embarrassed, or he didn't want to, lose. So he put on that fear that he had in his chest onto the other people. And I think that's another way that you can go about in regards to fear, like a fear of being mediocre or fear of not doing the things that you love, as in you always wanted to travel around the world, or you always, everyone's different. You wanted to live in the UK and teach there, or live in the Philippines and start at this or that. But people should use that fear of regretting not doing the things that they love.
Yeah, well, that's in the same vein, that they will always exist. Like I said, love and fear will always exist. Yin and yang will always exist. It's gonna be there. It's like, but that's what I'm saying. It's like the acceptance of it. It's a bit. This is a bit too maybe a Buddhist kind of mindset of untethering and let it go. The fear of losing something means nothing because the joy of gaining something does nothing too.
For sure.
It's a bit like, what do you mean by that? What I mean is, life goes on with or without you. It's like,
and that's another thing. Yeah.
Life
time
goes
is so
on,
short out here.
Yeah, right.
We've been realizing all these little things. It made me realize when Kobe passed away on a plane crash, who would have thought that your hero, that someone that you've always looked up to in that sense as a celebrity, his energy is now, but his energy is still around the world. but he has just gone like that. The guy that got up from everything and he was gone like that. Meaning it's so fragile. Life is so fragile.
Yeah,
so
right.
why wait?
That's what I mean. That's what I mean by you got nothing to lose. That's all I meant by that.
Yeah.
Like that's what I meant. Like your pursuit is as equal as it not meaning anything.
Yep.
It's like you can either choose to chase everything or choose to be resentful with it. That's all. Dude, I appreciate you, man.
No, look, I appreciate you for this. Is just like how we had talks 10 years ago, 15 years ago when I was in YFC with you. Everything that you've ever said to me, I appreciate all our conversations that we've ever had. You know, thank you for sharing your story and all your experiences. And I'm just going to keep watching from afar all of the things that we see as success, but to you is, you know,
well, when you're welcome here anytime, dude. You visit me, you got a home here.
Yeah, I for sure will come out in the next few years. I've never been out the South. You saw me when I was traveling. I'm always around Miami, Miami, New York, LA. Yeah, all that. But I for sure will come visit you if we go to the US again. I'll bring Chelsea. I want to give you your flowers. And I just want to say, a kid from Blacktown that's chased his dreams. It's crazy. And you've made it happen. So thank you for inspiring not just myself, but all those people through Pitch Meeting and many people around the world.
Thank you, dude. Thank you for letting me share my story. And I'm glad that you continue, you're doing the same thing, you're choosing to give people voices and a platform, and you're trying to inspire people around you. So it's the same thing. We're just a reflection of each other, if you think about it.
Yeah, for sure. And I want you to know that you have played a big part in that, even if you haven't thought of it. But me looking back, I never thought, like Kuya Eric's actually had such an impact on my life. But now me looking, like actually thinking about it, all these little conversations must have been ingrained in ways. And me going to YFC as well, and seeing how you were and so loud, and everyone loves this guy. He's funny. I must have took that away and gone back to school at Paddy's and tried to replicate it in a way. Or, as I grown up, like trying to be the loudest one at the party in a way. You know what I mean? Like you were that guy. And I always looked up like, this guy's so funny. Everyone loves him. Everyone thinks he's so funny. I need to be like him. But
you're a good dude, man. Thank you.
Oh no, thank you. So how can we find, for people that are listening and watching, how can we find you?
So you can find me on, I don't really use Facebook. So the closest place you can find me is on my Instagram at SOO Hungry, so hungry. If you want to follow me there, you can check out all my adventures, and all my links are all on there. And you can check out my nonprofit organization, The Pitch Meeting. The Pitch Meeting. You'll find it all on Instagram. It's all over my over my Instagram and all of that stuff. But I appreciate you, dude. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll leave all the links down below. Once again, Eric Fortaleza.
Thank you, dude.
Thank you. If you guys are new to this channel, I want to thank you for watching throughout this whole hour or so with our interview with Eric Fortaleza. It was good to be able to catch up with him and see the things that he's up to these days, and the big, great things that he's been able to achieve since the time we used to always see each other at church. I also want to shout out our sponsors, Cyber One Systems. If you guys need any assistance with your IT or setting up a website, even creating and developing an app, give them a call, or I've got the email down below, give them an email or send them an email, and we'll see you next time.